Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Vicky. If you're new here, big hello, and if you're a subscriber, many thanks for coming back and seeing me. Okay, today I'm just going to do a quick review / rundown of just my subscription boxes and the books that I've managed to read over the last 2 months. So these are a collection of books from January and February. Yeah, I think just around January and February books. And I've tried my best to try and read them as well. There's no point in just keep showing people how beautiful they are if the book itself isn't really very good and you don't really want to read it. Unless that is, you're just getting it for the aesthetics, which of course, all these books from the subscription boxes are very pretty. So I'm going to go from like my least favourite to my favourites. And I'll give you a brief reason why that is, and if I think it's worth buying, borrowing from the library, or that I would just never read again. And bearing in mind, this is just my opinion, okay? So I would say these two are joint last. This is the Fairy Loot book, and this was a book from the Forbidden Wing box. Okay, so let's go one at a time. So, Cruel is the Light. Absolutely stunning book. Stunning book. Very disappointed with the fleshing out of things. This story's premise, it's set in a mythical kind of Vatican City. But it works in that it draws elements of real life in, which just make it easier to kind of digest and think, oh wow, you know, it's bringing in a little bit of mythology. So you've got demon hunters and demons fighting in Vatican City, but they do bring elements of Italy into it and things like that. That part of it's really good. It could have been really good. It just hasn't fleshed out the characters properly. So I didn't feel anything. If even like, oh, you'll just start to get to know one of the side characters and they die and you're like, oh right, okay. But there was like no real development. The two main characters, they're okay. They mention magic, but again, that's not really fleshed out, so it's not really explained. It's quite confusing, or you just feel you don't know enough about it. There is no chemistry really with the two main characters, and I get the feeling like you don't really care like if anything happens to them, which is awful really. It can be very jarring and confusing. She does write in the third person and it changes the point of view and doesn't actually tell you like at the start of a chapter or midway through a chapter if she's changed, and it can be quite, oh, who is this now, who we looking through the eyes of at this moment in time. Interesting concept, could have been executed better in my opinion. Read it if you fancy it, but I would just get it from the library. So yeah, disappointing, but liked the idea of the story. Similar with this one. It wasn't selling at me on the aesthetic. It's pretty, but looked quite childish, and that is what it is really. This was listed as a adult fantasy. It is not. It is more like of a contemporary romance, and the only fantasy element is that she replaces basically dogs for dragons. They could be dogs. There's elements obviously where she brings in kind of dragon racing and things like that, but you don't see any dragon races. You don't investigate or find anything more out about that part of the world, and it's just barely touched upon. The relationship is meant to be obviously older people, so you're talking like early 20s, mid 20s. they are not. That they act very teenagery, like it's a first love kind of situation, very early days romance, very very young adult. It is definitely seems to be in aesthetics and writing style aimed at young adult. If you're looking for a very quick, cozy, kind of very simple to read and get on with book, brilliant. Don't be looking for major fantasy, because there's not really. She mentions different kind of character of dragons and things like that, and you think she might go into that a little bit further, but they don't. This is going to be one of a series, however, so she may go into that in later series. It's whether this book will entice you enough to read the rest of the series. I think maybe she could have done a little bit more of the world building, explaining why dragon riding is illegal and how dangerous it can be, how it affects the dragons. Does the colour of the dragon have an effect on it? Because apparently there's different kinds of dragons, but she barely touches on it. It just could have been fleshed out a bit more, and I think it's completely marketed at the wrong target audience. I think it's a young adult, basically contemporary romance, but it was all right for a really quick read. Would I buy it if I'd have read it? No. If I'd have picked it up from the library, maybe not. I did not finish it, but it isn't that bad that I couldn't get through it, but I wouldn't never read this again. I sound really negative, don't I? I'm not meaning to be. The Sirens. This was a locked library book, I believe. Yeah. So this is, again, they've done really well with finding a book that is unique in the story. It kind of focuses on being set in, well, backwards and forwards, really. It is a fictional place, but it kind of goes through the immigration of females to Australia as prisoners, and what they have to go through in order to get there on the prison ships and things like that, what they were subjected to. Tying in then elements of obviously fantasy, in that it starts talking about sirens and people or creatures that live in the sea. And she does a really, really good job of kind of tying it in with real life. However, again, it's a little bit slow. She drags out a lot, the beginning part of the story, and you don't really ever feel that urgency that you think you would feel from a missing person. I didn't feel that at all. And I did like the twist. I did like that at the end, but it was like, oh, right, okay. It wasn't like a, oh my God, that's so good. Oh, that was brilliant. It was just like, oh, right, okay, yeah. So it was good. I would get it from the library. I would definitely read it. If you like that sort of kind of fantasy, it's different from obviously dragons and fae and stuff all the time. So I liked that, but a bit too slow for me. Now, the ones I did like. Miss Neg. Fushy's Wrath. This was a Fairy Loot edition. I liked this one. Again, quite a unique story, which is why I'm really liking these subscription boxes. All very different styles at the minute, and definitely books that I would not have picked up. But this one is really good. So this is, it has a little bit of romance in it, but it is pure, I am going to pay you back. The title says everything. Fushy's Wrath. And man, is she set on getting revenge. I like the dynamic she has with her cellmate. I like the battle she has between not succumbing to the magic that she has to use in order to get that revenge. I like the way the story kind of develops into the end, or it all comes to light what the actual story is. It was a good read. I read it really quickly. It engaged me. It was a nice pace. Really beautiful edition from Fairy Loot. Yes, I'm glad I bought this one. I probably will reread it at some point. It was a good book. The last one I read in January and February was this, which surprised me, The Rose Bargain. It was brilliant. I liked this. Don't get me wrong. Don't be expecting some really super complex world building or anything like that. I liked it personally, being a Northern English girl, because it is set, or has elements in it rather, of the times when the War of the Roses was going on. So Lancaster and Yorkshire were fighting. And then again, kind of similar to the Sirens, bringing in real elements, which I think three of these books have done really well. So Cruel is the Light, the Sirens, and this one. I like where they've brought in little bits of truth and little bit of fantasy and mix it together. It just makes it more palatable. It makes you able to jump in and go, oh my gosh, that's really interesting. And it kind of blurs the lines between what is actually real and what has she actually fabricated, which is actually really, really interesting. So this is more kind of Bridgerton, kind of, Downton Abbey times. They have balls, they have dances, cross with obviously bringing in some of those elements like fae and things like that. It's lovely. It was lovely. I really enjoyed, like I said, the bringing in some historical elements alongside it being a romance at heart as well. I quite liked the characters. Could have been a little bit more kind of grown-uppy, but it is a Fairy Loot young adult, so it is perfect. There's not really any like smut or anything like that in it, so it would be a really nice young adult read. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I couldn't read all day, but I've literally finished it in 2 sittings. Really, really, really enjoyed this, and I like that for once it's set not present day, which is it's interesting. It just jazzes things up a bit. So my favourite 2 from January to February were these 2. Excellent. Then coming in the middle was the Sirens, and then bringing up the rear was the Baby Dragon Cafe and Cruel is the Light. So they are my subscription box reads for January, February. If there's any that sound interesting, go check them out. I don't know that you can get all of them from the libraries and stuff yet, but you can definitely get some of them. But these 2, if you're interested in those kind of styles, kind of not ultra modern, it's not all about dragons and stuff, but you've got one kind of Bridgerton-y, kind of trying to find a husband sort of historical kind of thing, or you've got this one, which is somebody is going to get it because I've been wronged, and if that's your vibe at the minute, this is a good read too. So I hope you liked this video, guys. I will do my recap of March and April once I've got all my books in and I've had a read of them. I can't promise I will get round to reading all of them, but I'll read as many as I can so I can give you a little review and see what you think about getting hold of the copies of these books. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye for now.